Hi guys, Sussex EDC here. I've wanted to do a short series about the various aspects and materials of knife design and give a brief introduction to this topic to help new knife collectors or those who are just interested in this aspect of EDC. I struggled to find this info out when I started and picked it up slowly from watching a lot of content online, so hopefully this will help make things a bit clearer for you. I'm going to call this series Knife Knowledge, and in part 1 I will discuss blade steels. So if you want to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe. There'll be more in this series to come, and I'm grateful for all of your support. So, when you start learning about knives, you're going to hear various numbers and letters thrown around when describing steel. These are the various names of steel, and it can get a little bit confusing. So I thought I'd just give you a brief overview here. When we talk about the qualities of steel, we often look at hardness, edge retention, and corrosion resistance, and these are what determine how useful and expensive it can be. These qualities come about from the different levels of chromium, manganese, nickel, carbon, vanadium, and iron in each alloy. Some companies, knife companies, have proprietary steel recipes, and others use steel purchased from widely accessible foundries. So it's important to remember that mid-level steels of a decade ago are now classed as budget steels as new formulas have come onto the market. So even lower level steels have really good qualities and shouldn't be discounted. And another key thing to remember is that the formulation of steel is just one aspect of its characteristics, and the heat treatment can be just as important in determining its quality. So you can have a low grade steel with better heat treatment with more benefits to a steel of a higher grade but worse heat treatment. So it's really important to remember that. And it also pays to be aware that there's also carbon steel, which has lower corrosion resistance but functions really well with regards to hardness and edge retention. But knives made of this steel can also require more maintenance overall. So carbon steel is often used in more traditional patterns and in chef knives, but I'm generally going to focus on stainless steels here. I will now explore just a few steels you may commonly come across. I've tried to list these in ascending order of the qualities we're discussing, with some minor exceptions which I'll explain. So first off, we'll look at steels with lower edge retention, hardness and corrosion resistance. One you may all have heard of is 440, and that's on this Rough Rider sew belly here. So the one thing to be aware of, there are different grades of 440, and there is a 440C, which is classed as a slightly higher grade, but this is 440A. You've then got the OS 8 steel, which is on the Ontario Rat 2. I've actually not got that on the table here, but I'll show you a picture. And then we have here on this Spyderco Ambitious, I believe we have 8CR13 MOV, and that's a decent budget steel. So we'll put those to one side. And then what we have here in mid-level knives of, so again, this is a mid-level edge retention, hardness and corrosion. Just going to put out 4 knives for us to look at. So with the Canset Bevy here, we've got 15 4cm. It's quite difficult to see, so I'll just let you know. I won't keep trying to focus in for you on the blades. The Kaiser Zip Slip, this is N690. One thing to be aware of, this also has higher corrosion resistance, so there will be some variations and exceptions in this list. So N690 has mid-level edge retention and hardness, but it has got a high level of corrosion resistance. Then on this QSP Penguin, we've got 14C28N. And then I've not got it on the table, but VG10 is a really good mid-level steel. So that's used commonly on things like the Rough Rider Apta series. And then lastly, at the high end of the mid-level, we've got this Fox Livery, which has got M390. So like I say, these are going to go in ascending order, just to give you a rough idea of the different steels. And then lastly, what we'll do, we'll look at some high-end steels. This one will be controversial, but I'll explain the reasoning. So with the Wee Banter, we have CPM S35VN. That's a really good steel, and that's one that's respected quite a lot with collectors. And then with this one, the Elementum, this is D2. Now that's why this is going to be controversial. But the reason why I put it here is because it's got really good hardness, really good edge retention, and on the charts that I've explored, which I'll include at the end, that is classed, you know, as a high-end steel. but it's a semi-stainless steel, so it's, you know, less corrosion resistant. So, you know, some would call this a budget mid-level steel, but for those qualities we're exploring today, edge retention and hardness, it comes in this category. Then on this Spyderco Para 3, we have CPM S110V, which is a really high level steel. It's starting to get into the super steel kind of quality. So that's really good. You'll pay more for it, but it's fantastic. And then there are other steels which I haven't got on the table here, sorry. So Spyderco also makes a Maximate steel, and it's worth mentioning Magna Cut, which some of you would have heard quite a lot of now. It's a relatively new steel, and it's tried to create a formulation with balanced qualities and higher overall hardness, edge retention, and corrosion resistant. So it's trying to, you know, sort of be a balanced steel across all of the qualities we're looking at. So some points to note, and like I say, with the D2, it's got lower corrosion resistance, but that's only really an issue in humid environments, and if you do not clean it and maintain your knife. But its hardness and edge retention make it a really popular choice by companies and collectors. CJRB use their own formulation, which is AR RPM9, and that's a good mid-level steel. And other companies also use their own steel formulations like Victorinox. Another thing to point out is Spyderco have the heat treatment skills, the equipment and the technology to grind and shape Maxima, which is a really high grade steel, but it's quite hard to work with. So they're one of the few companies to offer it. And that's class, again, the Maxima is classed as a super steel and ranks really highly on all charts for hardness, edge retention and corrosion. So in conclusion, guys, I hope this brief overview of steels has helped shine a light on it for you. I myself felt very confused initially when learning about knives and all of the steels that were available. My list isn't fully comprehensive, but it gives a brief introduction to this topic, which you can then further explore. And hopefully it's going to help you understand what we look for in steel quality and what all those numbers mean when someone reads them off in a review. So what I'll do is I'm going to leave some charts at the end of you to reference. So if you want to pause the video and take a look, feel free to do so. And feel free to leave a comment below. I really appreciate all the comments and like to join in the conversation. So I hope to see you back for other videos in this series and on the channel soon. Thanks for watching, guys.